Today we're going to discuss learning target number 1. We're going to review some terminology from previous science courses that you've taken in high school. Chemistry is the study of all matter, its properties, and how it behaves. Matter is defined as anything that has mass and volume and made up of elements. When scientists observe matter, we break our descriptions into two general categories. When describing a physical property of a substance, it's a property that can be measured without changing the chemical composition. That means after we take the observation, we still have the original substance. When observing a chemical property, we describe how a chemical reacts with another substance. After we take that observation, the original substance we were observing is no longer around. For example, if I describe or observe that lithium reacts with water in a chemical reaction, I won't have any lithium left over after I make my observation. Scientists can use two different kinds of observations when they're describing physical and chemical properties, and it all depends on how we record what we observe. A qualitative observation is an observation that describes a characteristic using just written descriptive terms only, whereas a quantitative observation is an observation that describes a characteristic using numerical measurements or calculations. Therefore, quantitative observations always include a number. The chart below shows you some examples of physical and chemical properties. If you are describing the state of the substance, whether it's a solid, liquid, or gas, its color, odor, crystal shape, if it's malleable, ductile, hard, or brittle, then you're making qualitative observations about physical properties. These are qualitative because when you make the observation, it doesn't require you to write down a number. As review, malleability means that you can take the substance and hammer it into a sheet. Ductility means that you can stretch the substance into a wire. Brittleness means if you smack the substance with a hammer, it will shatter. Examples of quantitative observations for physical properties are melting point, boiling point, density, which helps us figure out if the object will float or sink, solubility, which is how much it will dissolve, electrical and thermal conductivity. Whenever you test a substance for one of these, you still end up having the original chemical once you're finished your test. In contrast, chemical properties will alter your substance. Qualitatively, we can describe if something will react with water, air, oxygen, or acid, if it's flammable, if it's toxic, if it's a carcinogen, which means it causes cancer. Quantitatively, we can describe things like its auto-ignition temperature. That's the temperature that it will spontaneously burst into flames. Or its flash point. That's the temperature that the lowest temperature that you can set it on fire using an ignition source. Its LC and LD50 is the lethal dose that kills 50% of a rat population. Or its shelf life. How long is it good for? Below is a flowchart of some other terms you need to refresh up on. Read each of the definitions below the box and try and match the terms in the word list. Pause the video now and give it a shot. Here are the answers for the flowchart.